From the Washington Post, Judge Boasberg to launch contempt proceedings into the Trump administration. Oh boy. Is the judge going to try to arrest Donald Trump's lawyers, U.S. attorneys?
Who would be doing the arresting?
The argument is that warrants would be issued and any jurisdiction would pick him up.
Really?
But I don't think anyone's going to arrest U.S. attorneys. This is a massive gambit on Judge Boasberg's part, and this is the game.
Yeah.
Someone had to escalate this to executive authority. Check this out. The Washington Post says, Chief U.S. District Judge James E. Boasberg of Washington, D.C. on Wednesday said he would launch proceedings to determine whether any Trump administration officials defied his order not to remove Venezuelan migrants from the country based on the Wartime Alien Enemies Act. The Constitution does not tolerate willful disobedience of judicial orders, especially by officials of a coordinate branch who have sworn an oath to uphold it. He says, blah, blah. Boasberg's order is the latest development. He basically said that there was probable cause. He said, he said the statement he gave out, I don't know if they have it in here. Probable cause determined that contempt of court did occur. And essentially what this means is not yet they're going to have a hearing on contempt, but he's basically fired a shot across the bow at Donald Trump. Now, I will ask y'all, what happens if he actually tries to if he actually does issue a warrant to have Trump's attorneys or anyone in his administration arrested?
I mean, I don't know exactly who. It depends on who the arresting authority is, right?
Well, I mean, the argument is, does no one try to arrest them? Like, what happens if a judge says, warrant, go arrest Trump's U.S. attorneys?
Yeah, I'm not sure who would actually be who would have jurisdiction, because I would assume the Department of Justice has to.
If the warrant gets issued, doesn't that go out to all departments and agencies and they look up someone's information? Is a cop going to be like, there's a warrant, but I don't agree with it, so I'm not going to arrest you?
That's interesting. I
don't know.
Interesting. I don't. Isn't this the case that was just kind of overruled by the Supreme Court, though, that Donald Trump was within his authority? So can he even do that? I mean, can he actually hold them in contempt for something the Supreme Court said isn't a something? Like, there's no there anymore. So hasn't his authority essentially been overridden in this case?
It's a judicial coup.
That's what it is.
It's likely that regardless of the Supreme Court's ruling, he had a ruling that was defied, and they went to the Supreme Court, so he's making a side argument. It's kind of like when you get arrested for resisting arrest.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, who does the arresting, though? That's an interesting,
I don't know.
Who does it go out to?
I guess the big question is this criminal contempt? It is. He wants them to face criminal contempt charges. So a cursory search. It's a willful disobeying of the courts. Criminal contempt. So what will happen next is a contempt finding will be issued. The judge will enter a formal ruling. It can be a summons, fines, or even jail time. The U.S. Attorney's Office would likely seek appeal, which may work. DOJ leadership may get involved. If criminal contempt is upheld, the attorney could be fined or jailed, although jailing a federal prosecutor is exceptionally rare and would provoke a major legal and constitutional standoff. If it's tied to a politically sensitive case, it could trigger congressional investigations, DOJ reviews, and massive media attention. That's about it. There was, a federal judge threatened DOJ attorneys in 2015 with contempt in an immigration case. Interesting. He stopped short of any sanctions. So we will see. It's hard to know what would happen. But this is him basically saying, like, criminal contempt, we want to put you in jail.
He's going to try it. I mean, he's already threatening it. He's going to, I think he's going to follow through. He thinks who he is, right? And I think this highlights another problem that we have, obviously, with the judicial branch in the country, where one district court judge, one ruling from a district court judge. I mean, these district court judges actually have more power than a singular Supreme Court justice. It takes 5 on the Supreme Court to push a ruling through.
That's interesting.
One from him is... And you have a national block.
Which is unconstitutional and brings us to the ongoing constitutional crisis that is happening in this country. Donald Trump needs to start ignoring all the orders. And I think Trump knows this. And I think the play he's currently making is he's got to be careful because perception is reality.
Right.
If he is going around laughing, saying no one can stop me and the courts won't do a thing about it, then the public will stand against him. Like, people are going to freak out and be like, whoa.
Yeah.
But if Trump says, we're doing everything we're supposed to be doing, what are they talking about? Then people are going to be more confused and more willing to see what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not an expert in this judicial process. I mean, this is probably unprecedented, right? I don't.
Well, none of this whole injunction thing at the rate that it's happening now happened under Biden.
Under anyone.
Under
anyone
anybody
ever.
And they'll say, well, that's because Biden didn't, blah, 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 blah. He didn't break the law. Like, did he not defy the Supreme Court with the student loan?
Let me pause you on that argument. Universal injunctions are unconstitutional, period. Judges have authority only over those in their court proceeding. So if you and Mary won a lawsuit to me, I could only say you and you. I couldn't say the whole nation.
The whole nation.
And they've done 81 of these in 64 in Trump's first term and 17 so far into his second. More than any other president, and around half of all universal injunctions ever issued. And they are not constitutional. Trump and the DOJ need to bring this up. This needs to be their fight.
Yep.
Well, yeah, because it's judicial tyranny is what it is. It's supposed to be separate but equal branches. It's a coup. You're supposed to, each branch is supposed to have equal power. That's and it's not. Right now, a district court judge has more power than a Supreme Court justice, which doesn't make any sense. And a district court judge can decide that he's the president now and can start telling the executive branch how to do their job.
Yeah.
And within the authority that, this, like the trans ban in the military, Donald Trump is the commander in chief of the military.
Yep.
A judge shouldn't be able to tell Donald Trump how to. That's not their lane. You can't get in that lane.
No, and the idea that a judge should be able to affect the whole country like this. We have an executive. We have the separation of powers for a reason.
Right.
And a judge stepping into what the executive is doing in all of these different, like every single different arena that the president is trying to act in. And there are multiple judges that are stepping in the way. They're literally taking the authority away from the president, which was given to him. And I've said this multiple times. The only person elected by the whole of the electorate, right, the whole country, is the president. Congress and the Senate, they're elected by their constituents in the congressional districts and the states. The only person elected by the whole of the electorate is the president, and the president won clearly with the majority of the vote, right? 77 million people, didn't win just by the Electoral College, won the popular vote, and of course won the Electoral College. He had a mandate from the American people to do these things, and now the judges are stepping in because they're politically motivated. Again,
right.
This is not about. This is all politically motivated. Tim,
I got a question for the listeners. If you were the U.S. attorney or the DOJ, and the judge issued a fine for criminal contempt, would you say, "Thank you, Your Honor, I will pay it post haste," or would you say, "Shove it"? Honest question. Put 1 in the chat for bending the knee to the judge, and 2 in the chat for giving him the middle finger. And the reason I ask this, I'm curious why it doesn't happen. Like at this point, why isn't the Trump attorneys and the DOJ just laughing at the judge, being like, "Bro, you're a district court judge. You don't mean ish.
Right.
You can't do nothing about it."
I don't know. I think the only reason why is that you just mentioned public perception, and would it be something that the public looks at, and does the normie crowd understand that he's just a district court judge? Do they know what that means, or does it look like Donald Trump is violating a court order and that's bad? I don't know what they're thinking.
It's twos. It's like 100% twos. Everyone's saying like, "Screw this judge."
Screw the judge. I'm on the screw the judge train.
Look, man. What would you do, Phil, if you were in court and this judge said, "I'm going to fine you for criminal contempt"? Would you be like, "I will pay," or would you be like, "Nah"?
I'd be like, "Holy in contempt up here."
Right. Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. That's why this is all. We had Hannah on yesterday. Hannah Cox, she was saying that she fears it'll escalate to like a civil war with this tit for tat that's ongoing. But it's like the day after she's here saying it's a tit for tat, it's escalating. It's the Democrat judges threatening to imprison or fine Trump's legal team, and they did, and the Supreme Court actually said that they could not be compelled to engage in foreign policy actions like this.
Right.
So it don't matter if Judge Boasberg thinks they're in contempt. The Supreme Court said you couldn't have ordered this in the first place.
Right.
Well, I guess to be fair, He's arguing that he wanted a detailed timeline on how this all went down. And they cited, I guess, state secrets, executive privilege of some sort.
Sure. Yeah, that's what they said. State secrets was state secrets.
And the judge has no right to these things.
No.
Bye-bye. That's it.
Yeah, they should ignore that order.
Look, call it a cold civil war, call it whatever you want. You've got judges issuing unconstitutional edict over this nation at rates we've never seen before. It is unprecedented. You got all these young people that are like, nothing ever happens. And it won't stop happening.
Right.
He's been on you about that.
Really stuck with you, huh?
I mean, look, the fact of the matter is, like we talked about this before, this wouldn't be the situation if the previous administration had not been totally lawless when it comes to the border.
Yeah.
Right? Like if the Biden administration had done their job and if Joe Biden had not specifically said to people, surge the border.
Right. Come.
Like he said that in the debate. And if you think that people around the world don't listen when the president talks, you are wrong.
Right.
You are just wrong. He made that statement, and consequently, there was an wave after wave after wave of people coming to this country that have come into the United States. They're seeking asylum, but they didn't go to ports of entry, which is the proper way to do it. They would just come across the border, and when they would eventually bump into a border patrol or whatever, they'd say, I'm seeking asylum. And for some reason, the border patrol would say, okay, let's take care of you as if this is the proper way to seek asylum. If you came here seeking asylum and you didn't go to the port of entry, you're here illegally, and you got to go back.
That's it.
You got to leave. We got to toss them out. This is the current administration trying to fix the lawlessness of the previous administration, and over and over, the courts are literally getting in the way, upholding the illegal actions or preventing the remedy to illegal actions by the previous administration.
I say it all the time. Right? No matter where it is. Laws only matter if they're enforced, right? So when you have because and the proof is in the pudding right now. 95% drop in border encounters on the southern border, and there was no new legislation passed. Trump said it in his state. All we needed, right, was a new president and a beautiful president and a highly respected. He's a beautiful guy. But no, seriously, Biden and they didn't enforce the laws that we had on the books. Right. So, I make this example. I get pulled over for speeding, but the law is such that paying the fine is optional. I'm not paying it because there's no enforcement. There's nothing compelling me to give somebody else my money for a traffic citation or whatever it is. IRS sends me a signed, beautiful, you never have to pay taxes again, and we promise you're not going to jail. They will not get another dollar out of me. I'm not going to pay it just to feel warm and fuzzy. I'm just not paying. The problem is that's not the case. They enforce those laws. They didn't enforce the laws down on the border. When these people don't, what was it? Don't, right? Was that one word policy? But it was if you're not enforcing the law, then the law doesn't matter. Trump and his administration is enforcing the law, so the law matters. The problem is you have these courts that are basically saying the enforcement of the law is illegal, but it's the law. It's hard. It's frustrating.
This is the constitutional crisis, and it is that the judiciary is asserting constitutional correctness, as is the executive. Both are saying we are right and you can't do this. And guys, this is the issue that we've talked about when it comes to the concept of civil war. When two factions reach the highest level of government, right now the judiciary, which is propped up by Democrats, and these people were all appointed by Democrats, or largely, are outright saying our worldview is correct and your worldview is wrong. And on the right, they're saying the exact same thing. No, your worldview is wrong and our worldview is right. And I happen to think that reality has a right-wing bias because Maryland man is a lie.
Yeah.
And that's what they do to maintain power. Trump's only option is to stay course and defend the Constitution. The argument the left is going to make, and the liberals are making, is that Trump is violating the Constitution. He's in fact not. He's abiding by it perfectly.
Yeah.
They are in violation of the Constitution. If Trump does not stop them, he has abandoned his oath to the Constitution.
That's a good point. And you mentioned reality has a right-wing bias, which is an interesting way to phrase it. But I think when Bukele was in the Oval Office, they had a conversation and Trump said, the people that are running it right now, It's not conservative, it's common sense. And I think that just kind of goes to what you're saying, that reality has that right-wing bias, right? And in other words, Donald Trump has espoused a lot of common sense positions, right? Securing the border is a common sense position. You can ask anybody, right, left, center, up, or down. Do you lock the door to your home at night because you hate the people on the outside? I hope you don't live in that type of neighborhood. Or because you love the people on the inside because you want to protect what's yours. And it's like, well, of course I lock my door, right? Well, apply that to the country. You don't just let people into your house without permission if you don't know who they are. I wouldn't. Okay. I mean, unless we get a SWAT call and I really have no choice and sometimes, but I wouldn't let somebody in my house if I don't know who they are. They're not coming in. That's the point.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.